Dawn Staley and her squad open up the season against Michigan on Monday in Las Vegas. So should be a pretty good one. So I brought in the best of the best to break it all down. So here is Brad Muller.
All right, welcome back into this week's edition of The Walkthrough. I'm your host, Joe Machika. With me now is my esteemed guest, the voice of South Carolina women's basketball, the man, the legend, Mr. Brad Muller. Brad, how are we doing today?
I'm doing great. Looking forward to getting started once again.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be a big season for Dawn Staley and her squad as they are defending their national championship and their undefeated season. They kick off the season this Monday in Las Vegas against Michigan. It's a huge game out there in Vegas. But my first question for you is, how excited are you for this season and the title defense?
You know, it's always fun, and I never really look at it as defending a title because even though it's the same, a lot of the same players, it's a different year. Everybody's got different teams. I think, South Carolina's schedule this year is ridiculously fantastic in terms of the number of ranked teams they will play. The SEC, I think, is going to be a lot better this year than it was last year. Part of it, you bring in two top 25 programs, like Texas and Oklahoma, but I also think, and of course, LSU is going to do their thing, but I think there's a bunch of other teams that are better, whether they made coaching changes or the personnel they've gotten. I think the schedule will be a lot tougher. South Carolina, I think, has 12 games against teams that are ranked in the preseason top 25 and 8 of them against teams that are ranked in the top 10. So, as much fun as last year was, undefeated and winning a national championship, that's last year. There's going to be a lot of really good teams, and South Carolina's going to play most of them.
Yeah, absolutely. And scheduling was an issue for Dawn Staley. Believe it or not, like it's crazy to think that nobody wanted to play the best. And I mean, I understand it, but Dawn had a problem with getting this schedule together. Now it's finally together. As you mentioned, it's a gauntlet, and starting with Michigan. What does this team have to do to go out and make a statement against Michigan this week?
I think, the one thing is you got to stay healthy, and the other thing is you want to see what are they going to do in the post. The one loss, due to graduation last year, Camila Cardoso, and Dawn has said it before, it is hard to replace 6'7", because, 6'7", Camila Cardoso is going to affect things on both ends of the court. And, you don't replace that with one person because the other post players they have different skill sets. It's all right. She's gone. Now you figure out where you're making up that difference, not only offensively, but defensively. Can you have that presence down there to deny shots or alter people's shots or make them not shoot the ball inside and have to set for lower percentage shots? That was something Camila brought. Now they've got plenty of talent that'll be playing, in the paint this year. It's just a matter of who can affect the game the most. So that's something kind of I'm looking forward to the most, is seeing the forward play. Again, there's a ton of talent there. Sanaya Fagan's a senior waiting for her turn. She's, played behind All-Americans, whether it was Boston or Camila, her whole life, and hasn't had a chance to really be the one. Well, now she's got a chance. Obviously, you've got someone like Joyce Edwards, a freshman who is, a national freshman player of the year type that is going to be good right away. Doesn't have to be a star, but she's going to be good right away. And they've got some other depth there. They brought in Miriam Dowda, who can kind of stretch things out a little bit because she can shoot from the perimeter, transfer from Arkansas. So it's just going to be fun to watch. Again, different team. But it's exciting because there's so much talent coming back. You want to see what can this team do. Because you remember a couple of years ago when the Freshies won their national championship in 2022 and everyone expected, well, they got all 5 starters back. Surely they're going to win it. Well, they had a great year. They had one loss. Unfortunately, their one loss was in the Final Four. So you just never know what's going to happen.
Yeah, absolutely. You brought up a lot of good things there. Post presence was something, obviously, is the biggest question mark with this team, and we're going to see more of it as the season goes along. We saw certainly a lot of action in the post during that scrimmage as well. But Mary Lauda was the one I wanted to ask you about, the transfer from Arkansas. She's in the mix. Just today was named to the Cheryl Miller Award watch list. Dawn Staley has said that she's one of the nicest human beings ever. I'm sure you've gotten a chance to meet her. What is Miriam Dowda bringing to this team?
Again, yeah, terrific young lady. She brings SEC experience because she was a starter at Arkansas. She's good size. She's a 6'4" junior. Averaged double figures last year, about 6.5 rebounds a year ago, and is a shot blocker. I think she had almost 75 blocks last year. So she can be a presence down low. And I think the different thing that she brings is she can shoot from the perimeter. I mean, not just a mid-range, but she can shoot threes. I think she hit about 29 or 30 3-pointers a year ago, including she had 3 of them against the Gamecocks in their regular season meeting. She was their leading scorer against South Carolina. Maybe that's a good thing. Hey, we brought the best player over from Arkansas, but
exactly.
She's just going to add a different dimension because usually with most post players, if you leave them out on the perimeter by themselves, you're feeling pretty good that they're not going to kill you from outside. Well, she can. So you have to play her honest defensively. Maybe that helps getting people out of a zone if they throw zones at us. So I think it'll make when she's in the line, South Carolina, a little bit differently because she can shoot. She not just that she can, has the post moves, but she can shoot from the outside.
Yeah, absolutely. That's going to be huge. And it's been a while since we've seen a post player on Dawn Staley's teams, or a true post player that can space the floor as well. And I think having that with Sanaya Fagan leads to the starting of the filling in the gap of Camila Cardoso, but in a different way. When you add that shooting, like you said, it forces teams to be disciplined to the outside. And then when you do that, it spaces out the floor and gives your guards and other players a chance to eat on offense. Brad, this is going to be a big year for Chloe Kitts. She's entering her junior season. Her role has drastically improved as things have gone along. What do you expect to see from Chloe? And, is this going to be, her breakout year, I guess, in her junior season?
Really what you want to see from her is what you saw from last year, and that was continued improvement. Obviously, her third year, I like to call it her 2.5 years because, she started college early, came in January of her freshman year, after finishing high school early. And you could tell that first part, she wasn't ready because of, coming in the middle of the season. Last year, obviously, remarkable improvement. And that's what you want to see is what's the next forward step she's going to take. I think with her, she doesn't have the size in terms of girth. She's thin, but she has gotten a lot stronger. They've done everything they can to make her stronger, so you can't just bounce her out of the paint. And now she's another one that, can shoot the mid-range. If you leave her open, for the 10-foot, 12-foot jumper, she's going to take it. And that's another thing. You can't defend her just like a post that's only going to shoot it from 3 feet. So I expect just continued improvement like we saw last year because it was a huge step forward in her sophomore year. And I would expect a little bit more this year now that she's gotten a little bit stronger, or maybe she won't get pushed out a little bit. And like anybody, that we've talked about, how well they defend is also going to determine how many minutes they see because, Dawn Staley likes defense as well, especially inside. And as long, whoever's defending well is also going to see a lot of minutes.
Yeah, absolutely. Defense seems to be the name of the game for Dawn, especially this season. When again, going after that second straight national title. So I did want to ask you also, Joyce Edwards is the freshman to watch. I know, and we'll get to Malaysia Fawiley, who was the freshman last year, and what kind of steps she's going to take. But Joyce Edwards has been the talk of the town after dropping, I think, a double-double by halftime in the scrimmage against Memphis. Unbelievable stuff from the freshman. She was a number 2 ranked recruit. Dawn Staley made a major for her. What has Joyce Edwards, or the Joyce Edwards effect, been like since she's been here? And then also, what do you see her ceiling being possibly this year?
Yeah, I'm not sure what her ceiling is because, with freshmen, I always like to say, well, they don't, you can't expect them to be a star right away, and we'll just see what happens. The one thing is South Carolina does have the luxury where she doesn't have to be a star. She doesn't have to be a starter, but she might anyway. Who knows what she is. She's got good size, who's very athletic, who can run the floor. She's got a great build for an 18-year-old kid. I think she's still 18, in terms of, a lot of kids when they get here as freshmen, all right, they need a year in the weight room. They're going to get pushed around a little bit. She already looks like a college athlete, and, she's very strong with her legs and, can box out well. She can run the floor, and she's just very strong for how young she is. And that's what excites me to see where she's going to be a couple of years from now. It was fun watching, with the exhibition the other night. I think certain combinations of players are really going to be electric this year for South Carolina, who has that nice problem of having, potentially 10 or 11 starters and try to make everyone happy. But I don't think it's, after seeing what I've seen, I don't think it's going to be so much about the starting, it's about combinations. And when Malaysia Fulwiley and Joyce Edwards were on the floor together, it looked like they'd been playing together for a long time. And I just, sometimes players just get each other with their game. And it's going to be fun to watch. I think, especially when those two are on the floor at the same time, they seem to really have a good idea of what the other wants to do and where they are.
Yeah, absolutely. You were hinting at the depth there. The depth on this team is insane. When you have Joyce Edwards, the number 2 player in the country in her recruiting class, and Fulwiley was up in the top 5 as well. This roster is loaded. The depth. How far do you see it going? I mean, it is what has been, the key to success for Dawn Staley's teams down the stretch. How far do you see this depth taking this team this season?
I'm not lying when I say it's not going to surprise me if everybody plays almost every game, regardless of the score, because there's that many people that can contribute. And if maybe someone doesn't have it, on a particular night, if shots aren't going down or there's foul trouble or whatever, there's a lot of people she can put in there that you would expect. There's not going to be a drop off. I mean, if she wanted to do a full line change, to steal a hockey term and go, have your starting 5, first media timeout, and 5 more in, I don't think you're going to see much of a drop off because, there's a lot of talent, whether it's veteran or young people. We haven't even mentioned Adele Tack yet, who, finished high school early, came to the program last year, but didn't play because she was coming off a knee injury. And she's another 6'5" post player that's going to do some good things as well. She's more of a traditional post inside that, I liken it back to, I think it was the 2015 season, which was South Carolina's first year going to the Final Four, when you had Asia Wilson and Elena Coates. It was Asia's freshman year, Elena's sophomore year. You had them coming off the bench. And I just always remember you'd have your starting 5 that year that would come and punch you in the mouth. And then there'd be the media timeout. And then they'd bring Elena and Elena off the bench. And then you just see the other team's shoulders just slump, like, really? And that's kind of what this team was last year and what this team potentially can be again this year with, okay, you get punched in the mouth, hopefully with whoever the starting 5 is. And then maybe after, somebody needs to get a blow, you bring in 3, 4, 5 more people and you don't miss a beat. I have to expect that's what we're going to see. And what Coach Staley wants to see this year is that, you're not just bringing someone in to give someone a breath. You're bringing someone in here because they're going to be just as good as the 5 that were out there.
Yeah, that's so beneficial, especially when you're, in the grit and the grind of the season, getting banged up and knocked around. This point guard room is really, really deep. She returned Raven Johnson and Tahina Paupau. And then you've got Fulwiley coming in and backing it up. Talk to me about that room. I mean, I know Dawn Staley, it's one of the things that gets talked about every year, how good her point guards are because she played the position and everything like that. When you return, your 2 starters and then also Fulwiley, it's always a good thing.
Yeah, it's good problems when you have, to steal a football term, you used to say if you had 2 quarterbacks, you didn't have one. Well, I don't think that's true in this case because you've got 2, 3 different kinds of quarterbacks that can help you win at different times. Obviously, Raven is the true point guard who can make things go, and she likes to move things quick. But when Tahina slides over from the 2 to the 1, it sometimes slows things down, but it's still very efficient. Same thing with Fulwiley, whether she's a 1 or a 2. You have to account for all the point guards, not just defend them so they can't make good passes, but you have to defend them offensively. And they all bring different things to the table offensively, really. Paupau mostly for outside shooting. Fulwiley can run the floor. And as we saw with Raven last year, she can do a little bit of both. And then you got the nice problem of trying to get minutes for the freshman, Maddie McDaniel, who was kind of coming off an off-season or preseason injury. But she also has the luxury of learning from some really good ones ahead of her. She's another McDonald's All-American that hopefully will get some time and get some opportunity there too. So yeah, it's amazing in this year. I'm knocking wood when they say this of, the transfer portal and NIL that you've been able to stack these many good players at the same position. Last year it worked out because they won and, winning takes care of a lot of problems. And hopefully you'll have the same thing here again this year.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It is a really tough problem to have when you have potentially 3 to 4 All-American point guards on your roster. And then also too, just getting finding the rhythm of, where, they work into the rotation is also going to be, so key. So I want to know, Brad, is the pow, pow, pow 3-point call going to be making a return this season?
Oh, absolutely. Or 3 Hina, because it's just fun. She was obviously a great shot in the arm last year of what the Gamecocks needed, that consistent outside threat that maybe they didn't have in years past, even though they were very good getting to Final Fours with that other group of players. But she was a consistent threat, and you had to play her. You had to play her, or else defensively you had to get up in her face, otherwise she was going to kill you from the outside. So yes, you will be seeing and hearing pow, 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 hopefully a lot this year. She led the SEC in 3-point shooting last year, hoping we'll do that again. And then, got to come up with something for Tessa Johnson as well, who's turned into a pretty good shooter as well. And I think the both of them, Tahina and Tessa, just seen them in the preseason, they look so much more fit than they did last year. And that's not a knock on what they were last year, but you can just tell another year, now that they've been with Molly Benetti, the strength and conditioning coach, for a second year, they just look incredible in terms of their fitness, and I expect big things out of both of them. Yeah,
absolutely. And I'm glad you brought up Molly Benetti. She certainly deserves a shout out, and a lot of them too. Body by Benetti, fill in the blank. But she's done great things, and also it goes to show you, when you invest in your training staff and invest in the best, they will take care of it, and you will see the results down there as well. Brad, before I get you out here, I did want to follow up on one thing. You mentioned how Joyce Edwards and Malaysia Fulwiley were playing well as a duo. What are some other duos or some other, combinations in these lineups that I guess when fans see them checking into the game together, you're looking like, okay, this is going to be something special?
Well, obviously, we've got a small sample size so far, just, with the preseason exhibitions. So there's really just a lot I want to see of who is going to work well together, especially put the 4s and the 5s together. Because you'll want some experience out there, maybe with a young player. I'll be interested to see how that works with, you've got the experience of a Dowda and a Fagan and a Chloe Kitts, in the 4 and 5 spot, and Sakima Walker as well. But then when you have an Adele Tack and Joyce Edwards, maybe you don't put the freshmen out there at the same time together, so you have some leadership. So I'm interested to see how she works that. Again, because you've got different kinds of athletes that can run the floor out there. So I'm not sure what combinations we're going to see. I'm just excited to see when they get their opportunity, who's able to kind of break through early. Because again, the neat thing with some of these young players like Tack and Edwards, even though I think they're going to be very good, is they don't have to be great early. Get in there, get your feet wet, see what this is all about. They're going to have some good games. They're going to have moments where they look like freshmen, like Malaysia Fulwiley did at times last year. He burst onto the scene last year in the game against Notre Dame. And then there were moments where, okay, why are we fouling somebody 90 feet from the basket? Let's work on that, and so they're going to have their moments. So I'm just excited to see, again, just because you have so many interesting combinations where, if you took the starting 5 from the other night and you put in the second 5 where, okay, Tessa replaces Pow Pow and Malaysia, replaces Raven. Well, you've got almost virtually the same 2 players there that you've just swapped out and in. You've got a terrific shooting guard who can put it on the floor. You've got a terrific point guard who can weave through traffic. It's just going to be fun to see, really, on a game-to-game basis, even though I know Coach likes having her starting lineup somewhat similar, if they all deserve it, is how many changes to the lineup do we have based on, good week of practice, because I think the competition is going to be that good. But I wouldn't read into anything based on the starting lineup either, as I said, because I think the hardest thing is going to be who's going to be player, 11 and 12 coming off the bench, because they're that good that, players 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 are probably going to be just as good as 1 through 5.
Yeah, that's crazy to think. Absolutely crazy to think. All right, Brad. So before I get you out of here, what is going to be the biggest test on this schedule for this South Carolina women's basketball team?
As I said before, when you've got 12 games against preseason AP top 25 and 8 games against teams in the top 10, It's you can throw a dart and whatever you land closest to, yeah, you can say that one. But looking off, I think the early one at UCLA for a lot of reasons. UCLA, I thought, was one of the best teams in the country last year. They're in the top 10 this year. They return a lot of really good players, and you got to go out there. You got to remember, South Carolina is going to start the season in Vegas. They're going to come home. They're going to make a short trip up to Charlotte to play a Final Four team from last year, NC State. Okay, so you got that in your second game. Then you got couple of home games in the game at Clemson, and go way back out to UCLA again. Just the fact that you're playing a top 10 team on the road and you go that far out, that's the early one that I kind of have circled as, that's going to be a huge challenge because of how good UCLA is and has been the last couple of years, and, trying to make that next step. But also the long trip out there. And, that people don't think that about that, as much. That's a long way to go for one basketball game. So I'll be interested to see, how that goes. And then right after that, we go down to Florida Thanksgiving week to play two really good games against Iowa State, who's a ranked team, and another good Purdue team. But the one I'm circling early is a trip out to UCLA because they're good, and it's a long way to go after we've already had the long trip out to Vegas.
Yeah, absolutely. Going to be tough. And I mean, we look at it from a football lens too. Like, I have a stigma of road kicks or noon kicks on the road in the SEC. So similar thing. I mean, you're going halfway across the country for a basketball game. You can't come out flat or else, they'll take advantage. And, Dawn will not have her team coming out flat. That is for certain. So Brad, I appreciate you joining me today. Anything else you'd like to plug? I know you've got a class in the journalism school, which, I mean, if you've got the opportunity, go take it. But anything else you'd like to plug before I get you out of here?
Hey, just have fun, enjoy the season, everyone, and don't panic if there's a loss or two somewhere because, last year was special. It doesn't happen very often, but this team is going to be very good if they stay healthy, and we're going to play all the really good teams during the regular season too, including Texas twice, UConn again. So just enjoy it. It's going to be a lot of fun. You're going to get to see South Carolina play pretty much all of the best teams in the country during the regular season. So enjoy it.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. Going to be a lot of fun. I'll definitely have you on before the season closes. Maybe a little mid-season recap or something. We will definitely make it happen. Well, that is the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Brad Muller. Appreciate you joining me today.
Thanks, Joe. I appreciate the time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I had a fun afternoon.